Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we are going to be coming out of LAX with the A320 doing a cargo run, and we're going to be going over to Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. We're going to take a little bit of a longer flight today, hopefully something a little bit more complex in the flight planning, but I mean with the integration to Simbrief it's pretty black and white. As always, I'll be walking you guys through everything step by step, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in the cockpit, get some power on, get our ATIS information so we know our takeoff runways, and then we'll get into the flight planning of Simbrief. So let's get started. Interested in learning the A320? Consider checking out my guide. You can find the links to it in the description below. You can either use the Patreon site, subscribing to $10 or more, that's tier 2 or above, and it gives you access to the guides and any guides that I put out in the future, which there's quite a few coming. Or you can make a $10 donation via the PayPal link if you choose to just purchase the guide, and I will send the guide to you. Just keep in mind, if you guys are doing the donation, it may take a day or two for me to get to it, as I have to do that manually. This guide is step by step with screenshots, as you can see on the screen here. Walks you through every single thing that I do, all the way from Tucson International over to Los Angeles International in California. The only thing that you do need to run through this is the guide itself, as everything else is locked in, so go ahead and give it a shot and see if you enjoy it. Alright, so now that we're in the seat here, let's jump up top. And first thing is that we're going to fire up the batteries, get our external power turned on. We're not going to do any fuel pumps or anything like that yet until we've verified the fuel quantity on board. But we can get everything else turned on, ready to roll. We can turn on our nav lights. Let me actually reset some of these. That's why that happened. So we'll get our nav light on. We're not going to worry about the beacon light yet. Alright, and let's see here. We're not really needing it, but seatbelts or no portable devices, no smoking signs turned on, emergency exit lights turned on, and crew oxygen supply for anyone who might be hanging out in the cargo bay. Alright, we don't want them passing out. And let's turn our ADIRs on. That's 1, 2, and 3. And let's go ahead and jump down and get our cockpit set up the way we'd like. So we're going to get some lights going. I wish that we could save this configuration. I hope that's something that comes later down the road, is the ability to save your lights configuration. That way when you turn the system on, you don't have to go through adjusting the brightness on all these each time. That would be kind of cool. But other than that, I love this mod. This A320X is awesome. Alright, we're just going to do a quick sweep here. Flaps are up and secure. Speed brakes are disarmed but closed. Cockpit door is unlocked at the moment. Parking brake is set. Ignition and engine switches to off and idle. Let's see here. What else am I looking for? TCAS turned off. Transponder is off. We will not be using pilot to ATC today, as I haven't had a chance to resolve the issue I was having with some of my push-to-talk controls. It was just giving me some really odd behavior previously, so I'll be working on that after this flight, though, I promise. Okay, so after that, let's go ahead and get our ATIS information. So we'll go ahead and come down here. And we're going to go to ATSU, Airline Operation, ATIS, set KLAX, up in the box, click departure, hit send, and while that's going, we'll just go ahead and return to the AOC menu, and let's go ahead and jump into Simbrief for a minute until we get our message. Alright, so we've got our Simbrief flight plan already created here. You can see I have no idea what Federal Express's actual airline code is, so I just put Fed. We're using flight number 3310, departing from KLAX, heading to Kilo Delta Foxtrot Whiskey, that's Dallas-Fort Worth. We have our alternate route if needed. Selected the A320 Simbrief profile for the A320X. By the way, some people have been asking for this. A link for it will be in the description below. It is a very large link, so you can't miss it. Just keep in mind, what you want to do is when you find this link, open up your Simbrief, make sure you are logged into it. Then on a separate tab, click on this link and it will automatically import the aircraft for you. Okay, and again, this just makes sure that the specification that Simbrief generates is specific to the A320X profile. Okay, so moving on down here, cost index is the only thing we still need to set. I'm going to set a pretty high cost index. I want us to fly pretty fast. Alright, it's nice when we're not paying for fuel, right? Now, fuel factor, I've set that to minus 30%. I tend to find that Simbrief gives you way too much gas, but it's better to have it not need it than need it not have it, especially when you're up at 35,000 feet, but I think they do okay. Alright, so the only thing we need to do now is get our ATIS information, which we should have by now, so let's go ahead and jump back into the seat for a minute. We've got a company message, as we can see here. So let's come on down to the, come on down to our received messages, check our ATIS, and check our departure runways. So first off, ATIS information, Yankee. And that gives us the Zulu time. We got winds at 260 at 9 knots, visibility 10, few clouds at 7,000, few at 12,000, scattered at 15. Broken up at 19,000. So we got clouds pretty much everywhere we go. We have an altimeter of 3022 today, and let's go ahead and scroll up and find our active runways. 24 right, 25 left, 25 left, and 25 right. Now, just to verify, I'm going to go ahead and open up Navigraph to make sure that we know where we are. Hopefully, I have fixed the Symlink issue. Looks like it did. Good. I had to uninstall and reinstall it. My Symlink wouldn't work, and I have no idea why. It just happened one day. Alright, so let's come down here. We'll go to taxi, go to airport information, and find our closest runway for departure. Looks like we're going to be hoping for 25 right, so let's go ahead and continue on in Simbrief and see what we got. Simbrief is calculating us at 25 right departure. We're going to accept that. 18 left arrival is what we're hoping for, but no guarantees, obviously, until we've verified with ATIS when we get there. Extra fuel, carrying 1,000 pounds on board for an extra 30 minutes of flight time if necessary. And we have a cargo weight of 27,500 pounds. No passengers, as this is a cargo run. Okay, we have our flight plan generated, so now all that we need to do is hit Generate OFP for Operational Flight Plan. Alright, and now that is complete. We can see our routing information up here, but we're going to go ahead and come on down to this one here. I like to have it up on hand. Now, we're probably going to need much of this. We're going to do a Simbrief integration today, so a lot of this is going to be pre-populated for us. So let's get back into the seat and see where we're at. Alright, so jumping back into the seat, let's go ahead and go to the initialization page for a minute. And we're going to hit initialization request. And this sort of just gets everything out of the way in one shot. So insert in progress. So it's entering in all of our information here. Passenger numbers, that's new. That's kind of cool. Alright, and then we'll just go ahead and hit clear here. We should be able to see our flight plan information. Yep, that's already set. Now we'll still need to set our departures and arrival. But before we do that, let's continue with some of the other information that we need to populate. We're going to go back into ATSU. So from MCD menu up into ATSU again. Go into aircraft operational menu or airline operational. And we're going to do performance and our weights and balances here first. Okay, and there's the uplink complete. Alright, so block fuel, we're looking at 16,688 pounds. We look up here, we can see we're at 20,840 currently. So we're going to hit refuel. And 16,540, you can see it's slightly different here. And I believe it's subtracting some of the taxi fuel. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure why that number never quite adds up, but certainly close enough where it shouldn't be a problem. And if you ever doubt the information, you can hit OFP request send. We could actually do this before going to initialization. I just think it's faster to do the initialization as you get everything all at once. So anyway, now let's go ahead and go over to page 2. And again, same thing with the payload. So we're going to do payload load. Now the catch here is that the aircraft MCDU thinks so, but I don't think that the weights and balances in the sim think so. So let's switch on over to pounds for a second. 16,688 is what we're supposed to be looking at for fuel. Let me get back to the fuel page. We're just going to back up. Okay, 16,688, that's good. So fuel integration seemed to work just fine. 16,688. Now we're going to check our payload again. 20,002. Alright, so payload showing at 27,500. So we're a little light on the payload information. So let's bring that back up. 27. Alright, so we could either leave it as is. Honestly, it's not going to affect much in our situation, but I mean, it's 500 pounds, so. Oh, 22. Oh, now we're too heavy. I hate fighting with these sliders. 22,806. And we're looking for 27,500. So we're 500 pounds on the heavy. So what we'll do first is you can see here, center of gravity is a little on the forward side. So what I'm going to do And you could change this to, since we're not actually taking passengers, you could change this to just the forward and rear baggage. But, you know, I'm not that concerned about it. But we are going to check that down to 500, or for 5,100, and 22,306. Did I go the wrong direction? 22, or, oh, gosh, I know we're close. Come on, guys, yell at me. Let's do 38, 25,000, 27,005, and I think that is going to be just fine. 20,500, absolutely. Okay, and we have a center of gravity 18.0. Now that's right on the line, so if we wanted to, just to be sure, we could take some of this weight and take that down to 3,000 and put it like in rear baggage. Balance the aircraft out just a little bit better. And there we go, almost a perfect center of gravity, 27% on the Mac. So now we can close this. And I just like to hit the load again just to make sure we're up and ready. And now we can continue with the MCDU configuration. So let's jump on down. There we go. And let's go into initialization. Okay, that's already set. Go to flight plan. And first we need to set up our departure. So let's set up our departure. We know that we're using 2.5 right today. Again, we're not going to be using ATC today. I promise I'll have it available on the next one. And we're using the DOTS 2 departure. So that's our SID. And the scenery, I think, is what it was. Yep, for our transition. And hit insert. Boom. Now we'll go ahead and set up our arrival, but again, this may change as we get in close. We'll have to see. But we are plotted for the 1-8 left. So let's go ahead and find that. ILS 1-8 left. Always want to use the ILS when possible. For me, anyway. I prefer it. And we're using the BOOV 4, or BOOV 4, however you want to call it. And it looks like Grutch is our transition point, but let's verify that on our flight plan. Sometimes we won't have a transition, or a via, if you will. Let's see here, we're jumping on, there's the direct 4, there's the BOOV 4, there we go. So BOOV 4, and where are we transferring onto the approach? I don't see Grutch, so I don't know if we're using that. Doesn't look like it. So I think we're going to stick with no vias today, because I don't see us hitting that. So we're just going to go with no via. No. I don't know why you reset that. None on the transition. It makes you go all the way back through this, and I don't know why. Oops, 1-8 left. On the BOOV 4. And hit insert. Yep, there we go. Alright. So, the star reason the before is still doing the via on the Grutch. Let's check it. Maybe it's supposed to be there. I suppose I should have done that from the start. So, Kilo Delta Foxtrot Whiskey. Open that up. Let's expand this a bit so you guys can see that bit better. And we're looking for a star. Well, I know it's out there. Switch to dark mode. There we go. So much better. So much better. Alright, and actually, what I probably want is approach. Find the 1-8 left. Yep, it is the Grutch. Okay, so, my bad. We did want that. And this is why I should have checked the charts. Check your charts, check your charts, check your charts. Don't get lazy. That's exactly what I was doing. I was being lazy. Okay, so let's move on down. Let's get back to our KLAX. We have our nice taxi information. That's what I want. I want to move this off screen. Okay. And let's now just go through our flight plan and verify we don't have any issues. So we're going to come up to the top of the seat here. Boop. And switch this to plan. And remember, when we're looking at this, we're looking for any weird behaviors, discontinuities, broken paths in the flight line. Any big backtracks? Basically anything in the flight that we would not want to fly, that would not be beneficial. Everything's looking good so far. Yep, that brings us around onto the approach and into Dallas. Alright, so that's good. Bring it back. Alright, back to start. Let's go back to ARC. Set it to 20. Constraints on, flight directors on. Constraints on, flight directors on. Let's go ahead and come back down to the MCDU and continue with the rest of the setup. So we're going to go back to initialization. We're going to go to initialization B. Calculator 0 fuel weight and center of gravity. We already verified that's accurate. Set our fuel. I always pull it directly from here. 16.5 is what we're entering in. So 16, oops, clear. 16.5. Throw that into our block fuel. Wait for our calculations to complete. Alright, calculations are complete. Let's go ahead and move on to performance. We're going to be doing flaps 1 as always for our takeoff. I'm not going to worry about flex temp today, so we're just going to rock toga. We're going to go full power on takeoff. Transition altitude 18,000, always in the US. Set our V speeds, just click on through. Don't worry about the orange warnings until you've completed your tasking here. V2 133, so we're going to come up top to the speed heading here. Helps if I click it. There we go. And we're going to be looking for 142. Is that 142? 143. 143. And the reason why we do 10 knots plus is simply because it provides a better takeoff performance. We put it up in the box even though it's automated by the flight computer just in case for any reason we have to do manual control. Let's go ahead and set our altitude up to 18,000 feet. A lot of people always have questions about... Actually, let's check our SID. Stop being lazy here. A lot of people have questions about, you know, why do you put the plus 10? Why do you put the plus 10? Some aircraft actually do plus 15. You know, some of the bigger A380, 747, etc. And again, the reason for that is just it provides slightly better takeoff performance, makes it a bit better on the... bit easier on the takeoff, on the climb out. What was our SID again? Anybody remember? The dots 2, that's what it was. So let's check it out. So we're going to be climbing out. And we are going for, let me scroll up to our flight plan here. I'm looking at Simbrief. Docker is our first one. So we're coming out this way. Okay, so we need to be below 3,000 at Docker. And then from there we are cleared out to our altitude. Well, let's see here. It says above 6,400 at Docker. Ah, I got it. I see what I'm doing here. Okay, runway 25 right. I think this is for the approach. Well, no, that can be for the approach. So why would we be at 640 here? Oh, 640 feet. That's why. Duh. I'm retarded. All right, so 3,000, then 5,000. And then we're clear to 15,000. So we will hold 5,000 feet, stay under 5,000 feet until we pass through Wheeler. Once we pass through Wheeler, we'll accelerate our climb out to 15,000. Actually, we can go all the way up to cruise from there. All right, let's pull that out. And let's get back in here and set that down to 5,000 as our initial altitude. Guess I could have just left it alone. Next thing, we just need to set our... Let's go back in here, go back to our ATSU, because I forgot what the altimeter was, and we can just reread our message from earlier for ATIS, and 3022 on the altimeter today. Let's get that rolled in. $3022, let's get that on the standby as well. All right. And I believe we are ready to get APU started. So, oop, wrong button. Let's get up top. Start the master switch. Go ahead and give it a couple of seconds to power on. Oh, fail. First, turn on fuel pumps. Then start our master switch. Give it a few seconds to warm up. Then we can start the APU. And then the beacon light, let's go ahead and get it going, indicating we're getting ready to start the engines. Alright, and let's come on down to our rear panel while those are warming up. Arm and lock the cockpit door. Let's set, we got our clearance today at 0615 for our transponder code. We can go ahead and set the transponder to auto or on. TCAS remains off, predictive wind shear remains off, and weather radar remains off. We can arm the spoilers though if we want, no harm there. And we can set our ignition switch to ignition, or engine master switch, excuse me. Let's return to the cockpit view, and let's start thinking about pushback. So I'm going to go ahead and get pushback helper rolling here. I'll go back to our taxi information on our Navigraph. Zooming in a bit. Taking off for 25 right, so we're going to be wanting to taxi left. Left? Right. I think we want to taxi right. I always forget what side of the aircraft it taxis to. And we're just waiting for the APU to become available. I don't know why. Oh, because I switched the engine switch. Let's go to the APU page. You can see the flap is open. RPMs are climbing at about 95 to 98%. We should see available, in which case we can switch over to the APU bleed. We can set our auto brakes for max in the event of a rejected takeoff. Alright, and we are now ready to get out of here. So, I'm going to go ahead and activate our pushback. And of course the parking brake didn't release, so there's parking brake released. We can go ahead and toggle engine mode 2 or engine 2 on, start the chronometer, and then let's pay attention to this pushback. Nope, it was left. I was right. I guess we don't get an actual cart over here. We're not the cool kids. Turn, baby, turn. Turn, baby, turn. Alright, let's get back in the seat here. We're just about enough where we can take over. So let's go ahead and stop that, stop the aircraft, cycle the parking brake. Good. And, oh, we did not have an engine start. What happened here? Did I not? Gotta make sure you hit your APU bleed, guys. I'm surprised we didn't lose power right there. So now the engine will start cycling. Chronometer's inaccurate now because of me. That was my fault. So we'll have to sort of ignore that on this one. Alright, we are now available. Engine's at idle. Reset the chronometer. And roll on engine 1. Go ahead and jam the cambid. All right, both engines ready to roll. Let's go ahead and disengage APU bleed and turn off the APU. And let's get our taxi lights rolling. Cycle that parking brake. Flaps 1 for takeoff. And we're golden. Start pushing out. The A320 taxi speed, as long as you are taxiing straight with minimal obstruction, or no obstruction I should say, you can taxi between 20 and 25 knots, reducing between 8 and 10 knots for a turn, as you don't want to exceed 10 knots during a turn, as you can damage the landing gear at that point. Ground speed is shown there in the top left of the nav display. I've been getting some weird lag the last few days, so I did update to Windows version 20 H2. So it may be time for a bit more troubleshooting here. Or I have to tone down some settings. I do have my settings like darn near maxed. And I mean maxed. So we'll adjust those later on. I'm not too worried about it right now. Or you know what? Let's try something, and I'm going to let you guys watch this one because it was something a viewer mentioned to me. So let's go ahead and check it out and see if it doesn't improve things for us. And it's data. Rolling cache on. It's already set to 8 gigs. I think he said to bump it up from 8 gigs, but let's go ahead and delete that. And let's set it to, I don't know, 20 gigs. Apply and save. Oh. Okay, well. See if that doesn't smooth anything out. I don't know if that's going to or not, but it was just something he said to try. He said it makes everything smooth as glass for him. I'm still getting some stutters, but that's okay. You know what? In the update, let me check one more thing I'm kind of curious about. I don't mind you guys seeing this. Let's go to Program Files, Windows Apps, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Let's find the executable again. Make sure that my settings that I had set are still in place. Disable full screen optimization still is, and change DPI settings. Use the setting to fix scaling problems with the program. Nope, I don't want that. Override high DPI scaling behavior, scaling performed by application. And hit OK. Let's go. Yeah. Like I said, some of it may just be I need to retune some things, and that's okay. Plus, I mean, we are in LA. And like I said, my settings are cranked, so some of this can just be normal. Watching that taxi speed. Alright, let's set that strobe light. The landing light's turned on. And Los Angeles Tower, FedEx 3310, holding short, runway 25 right, ready for takeoff. FedEx 3310, winds 240 at 6 knots, gusting at 26, clear for takeoff. Cleared for takeoff, FedEx 3310. Do my best to simulate it with what I know. It's good practice. You guys should really try doing that. I've just started doing that with my flights a couple days ago, and you feel a little goofy at first. I'm not gonna lie, you do. But you know, getting in the habit of using that verbiage. What is your problem? Oh, predictive wind shear. Always check your ECAM. Same thing with TCAS. Okay, now we're ready for takeoff. I don't worry about the weather radar. I don't really like using it. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is set 50%, verify stabilization. Stabilization good. Activate that chronometer and toga. Forward down pressure on the nose until we clear 80 knots. Clearing 80 knots, releasing that pressure. Coming up on V1. And there's our rotate. Climbing approximately 3 degrees per second. Gear coming up, positive rate. Holding about 15 degrees on the climb out. Flaps coming up. These flaps should have came up. That makes me think they went down. What happened there? I'm not sure why the speed restriction came. Alright, thrust levers down into the climb position. Climb position active. Autopilot engaged. Federal Express 3310, contact departure. Contact departure, Federal Express 3310. Have a good day. Los Angeles departure, Federal Express 3310, climbing through 2000 with you. Federal Express, continue climb via the SID. Continue climb via the SID, FedEx 3310. Alright, so to climb via the SID, as soon as we clear Wheeler, we can increase our altitude. We just need to get past that waypoint, which we are doing now. So let's go ahead and adjust our altitude. We'll first target for 18,000. Let's get her back into open climb. And I won't be able to do all the air traffic control between everyone else, you know, all the different centers, but I'm not even sure I got the departure command correct, but again, it just gets you in the habit of saying the words. Trying to work on that. Now that things with the pandemic are hopefully starting to settle down, I'm going to start going back for looking to get my pilot's license. I signed up for an online ground school yesterday, so I'm going to get that rolling. That should be fun. I'm excited for that. I really am. I think that's going to be an awesome situation. Really, really looking forward to that. pretty departure. Let's get up over the cockpit a little bit. There we go. Actually see something out there. I'm still getting some stutters, man. I'm gonna have to play around my settings again. I don't know where this is coming from. Like, this is a new development is the thing. Like, yes, my settings are almost maxed and we're in LA, but on the monitor I don't typically ever have a problem with that. So this is a recent development that all of a sudden it's started giving me crap again. So it's back to the drawing board, you know, but I'll check it on the next flight. I'm not going to worry about it right now and interrupt you guys with that, but alright, so we're climbing out. We can put our engine master mode back into ignition. We can disarm the spoilers. Or back into norm, excuse me, not ignition. And let's see where we're at here. We've climbed through 10,000 feet, so we can get rid of those landing lights and taxi lights. I hope we get a panel soon. Kind of like the Avi tab that they have in X-Plane. That'd be cool. That'd be an amazing update. That must be us approaching our altitude. Federal Express 3310, you're cleared to flight level 350. Cleared to flight level 350, FedEx 3310. Let's give her an up click there to get her back into climb mode. And from here we continue all the way to cruise. You know what? I also wonder. Oh, passing through 18,000 feet. Let's set our altimeter back to standard. 29902 for anyone who's unaware is the standard. And let's go ahead and bump this up. We're going to be looking at long range. Anyway, what I was going to say is I'm going to wonder, or what I'm wondering is, you know, I just recently started using Nvme Shadowplay again for recording. In most applications, I get a much smoother recording than anything like OBS or anything like that can do, which would make sense because it's directly connected to the drivers, right? So we're getting that image raw. But I'm wondering if that's what's causing part of the problem. May have to check that, because I think game mode is turned off still, unless the update turned it back on. I didn't think to check that either. Nope, game mode is off. Although this is another one. So, odd enough, this is one of those ones that I'm really big on that you need to terminate. Odd enough behavior. This is where this gets weird. And this is where, again, you guys have to test and test and test and test and test. Okay? So, in VR, crushes performance. Just crushes it. No matter what you do, you're going to stutter, you're going to skip. For me. Now, by the way, I did find out something else about this. It will say hardware accelerated GPU scheduling if you have a monitor and an NVIDIA graphics card that does not have G-Sync. Okay, right? Is it G-Sync? Maybe I have that reversed, because my monitors, I think, have G-Sync. Whatever NVIDIA's monitor connection is. I can't remember what it's called. But it says something completely different when you have that. Yeah, no, it is G-Sync. G-Sync is NVIDIA. So if you have G-Sync, this will say something different. And that's going to be your monitor. Your monitor is what's going to be capable of doing that. If you have FreeSync, which is what I have, my monitor doesn't have G-Sync. It has FreeSync, and that's where I see this. So if you don't have either of those, that may be why this option is not there. I know some people have reported that they don't see this setting there. Maybe that's part of it. I still don't know. what all the requirements are for this setting to be enabled. Anyway, getting back to my point, in VR, this setting crushes you, just absolutely destroys the performance. You can't play, and it doesn't matter what you do with the in-game settings. Okay, this is one of the things I fought with for 10 hours when I first launched VR. However, what I noticed is when I have this turned off and I'm playing on the monitor and I'm doing my recordings for, like, example, OBS Studio, it will stutter every single time if this setting is turned off on the monitor. So it's really a pain in the rear, and I'm going to have to test it. I'm willing to bet that's actually what my problem is that because I'm using NVIDIA Shadow Play, I'm just not seeing the stuttering that I was seeing before. Now, the odd behavior about that is only OBS would stutter. The actual sim itself was running fine with this turned off, and I wouldn't have any issues. But on the OBS display screen, I'd have a ton of them. It would record like junk. So anyway, that may be something I have to test. I might have to mess with that. I'm going to try maybe on the next flight turning this back on, which means I have to restart the freaking computer and then try another recording in Shadow Play and see if that doesn't solve my problems. I'm willing to bet it's going to. But anyway, the little things we learn. Test, test, test. But guys, there isn't a whole lot more that's going to happen for quite a long time. I mean, we're just... Oh yeah, we're set out to 320 miles here, and we can't even see it. I think we're on I want to say almost 1,300 mile flight, 1,400 mile flight. So I'm going to let her climb on up to cruise, and I will catch up with you guys when we get closer to our top of descent. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in a minute. Alright guys, so we're about 110 miles out here, give or take. We're up at 35,000 feet, so we're going to go ahead and start plotting our descent here. And so I'm going to start rolling it back. Taking us down to about 2,000 for now. We'll see how the descent goes. Hopefully it doesn't descend too fast. You can see time has elapsed and we're now in a night flight. I think I'm actually going to adjust our descent rate. I don't want to descend quite that fast, so I'm going to go to vertical speed mode. And we're going to reduce that to, let's do about 1,000 feet per minute right now. And if we need to increase that later, we can. I'm going to see if we can get our ATIS information. Oh, yep, and perfect example. That's why. So let's go to the MCDU menu. We're going to go to ATSU again, AOC, ATIS, Arrival. Oh, we're already on Arrival, duh. And then you can see our airport is already in there, so we're just going to hit send. And now go back to the AOC menu, and we're just going to wait till we get our received messages queue up here on the eCam. Takes about 30 seconds, give or take. There we go. We can actually set this back to our pressurization page. Let's go to received messages and check our ATIS. Darn, not available. Now, it's not available through I'll just Google it for today, but we could just change the settings. But let's just do KDFW. ATIS. See if I can get that. Alright, so let's see what we got. 2107 knots for the wind. 10 mile visibility, few clouds. altimeter 3027. And our temp is 9. So it's cold out. So let's go to performance. Move on over to the approach phase. Oh, oops, I hit the right button. Alright, and let's set this here. So we said our ATIS, or our altimeter, is 3027. So 30.27. Throw that up in there. Temperature of 9. Our winds was 210 at 7 knots. So 210 for 7. And transition altitude always 18,000 feet. Let's pull up our charts. And we need to get, Fort Worth, open the books. And we look for approach, and we're looking for runway. We're just going to stick to our plan, which was 18 right if memory serves. Let's check that. Flight plan, 18 left. Okay. 18 left. And let's find our ILS, decision height of 802 feet. So 200 feet. Type. Do the standard. So we're going to go back into performance. Switch back over into the approach phase. And we're going to do a decision height or a minimum height of 200 feet. And we're ready to go. And this will automatically activate once we reach the decel point. I'm not sure why we are descending at 2,500 feet per minute again, but actually looks like it's going to work out okay, so we'll leave it as is. We'll rotate this back to 40. And now it's just a matter of descending on our way down. Here are passengers in the background, hooting and hollering. I'll come back with you guys when we get closer into our descent here. Right now I'm just going to be watching the altitude and speed restrictions and making sure that our aircraft is abiding by that. But so far we're looking good. As we pass through 18,000 feet, we'll also change to the altimeter setting. And then 10,000 feet we'll get our lights on. Alright guys, so we've descended below 18,000 feet, we have our altimeter set, and I've increased our descent rate to 2,100 feet per minute as we need to be at below 14,250 knots by the time that we reach Curly here. We're running a little high, so I'm not sure that we're going to make that yet, so I want to make sure we have plenty of time to slow the aircraft back down. So I'm going to go ahead and increase our descent rate a little further. We're now at 2,500 feet per minute. And 5 miles away from our target, so yeah, we're a little high. Go a little further, try to expedite this descent. You can see our airspeed is climbing. We're now pushing 270 knots. We're supposed to be low at 250 or below by the time we hit Curly. So there's 14,000. We're almost there. There's the restriction in place. Okay, that's good. Alright, so we're good. That worked. And now the aircraft's slowing down pretty rapidly, which is good. Because we're looking for 220 knots by the next one. We're still above it, but I'm going to go ahead and throw our landing lights on. See, and this is something you have to watch for. We should be descending or not. So I'm putting us back into vertical speed and forcing the descent. So we're supposed to be at 12,000. There's no way we're going to make that. Not at that descent rate. So things you have to watch for. You know, it's easier to gain the altitude than it is to lose it in our situation. When you're on the approach, I'd rather be below my target altitude than above it. Okay, because when you have to descend rapidly, then you also have to manage airspeed on top of that. So I highly recommend that, you know, you do what you need to do to stay under your target, and then adjust. If you need to climb, then you need to climb. But I mean, obviously you want to try to hit it as much as you can, but don't trust the autopilot to always function the way you want it to. You know, we know that with this simulator, you know, it's got plenty of bugs, and I know everyone gets frustrated with the altitude, but at the same token, you know, use it as a way to improve your skills. You know, so now we're continuing our descent, but now we're descending like a rock again. So I'm going to once again take control and remove that, because now we're supposed to be below 11,000. Actually, at 11,000 is our target. So I'm going to have the plane level out here, about 80 feet below our target, but that's fine. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to worry about fighting that. And I'm just watching it, and every time the computer tries to take over, I put it right back into vertical speed and take it back. And I'm using the Bravo throttle quadrant, which allows me to very quickly go between those two. So indicated airspeed should not be active. Well, actually, I guess it would be. Disregard that. So let's go ahead and set our target speed here. We need to get that down to 220 knots. We're way fast. Start slowing the aircraft back down. When I went into vertical speed mode, it accelerated. And so the blue indication means it's user controlled. And that's, remember from previous tutorials I've done, the orange dot indicates the computer's in control. The no dot indicates you're in control. Whatever you put here is what you're going to get, ideally. And so it looks like here we're holding 11,000. So again, we're a little high, but not bad. Or a little low, excuse me. You know what, 60 feet. There's the airport, though. We're getting close. Just got to come around and get back onto our approach here. Let's look at our star here. Make sure we're on point. If I can remember which one we're using. What was the star for this one? It wasn't Cedar. Boovie 4, that's what it was. Alright, so we can see where we are here. So we're just getting ready to come up onto the approach. Once we get here, we'll come back around and switch to the approach. So actually, yep, 11,000 at 220 knots. So we're right where we need to be now. We'll get to boolean, we'll come back around, and then get to the approach. I'm just going to go ahead and take us back to the approach page, and we're looking for 18 left. And you can see us here. And once we get to Grutch, we need to be down at 4,000 feet. So we'll make it work. So we're going to go from 11,000 here and descend all the way down to 4,000. And we are descending, which we should not be. So it took it away from me again. Because we're supposed to be at 11,000 feet until we reach here. So, I mean, technically I should be climbing back up. So I got plenty of gas on board, so I'm not worried about fuel burn with the climb. Alright guys, so we had some chaos happen here. I think when the approach mode activated, we're about to check that. Nope, it's not activated yet. I paused for a second to step away, and when I came back in, the autopilot took over, turned the aircraft off course, and we can see that the approach is not active, so I'm going to activate the approach phase. But we've lost guidance here, so I had to turn it. Right now we're in heading mode, which is why everything's dotted like this. It descended our aircraft very rapidly for whatever reason. So again, this is just part of the game. We had to do some of that pilot stuff, take control back of the aircraft, and get us back to where we need to be here. So that's what we're working on right now. I'm going to start slowing the aircraft down a bit more. We're at 7,700 feet, which is fine. We can actually start descending further because this isn't going to be right. Going from 11,000 to 4,000 in that turn, that ain't going to work. So let's go ahead and set ourselves on vertical speed and start our descent. Start at 800 feet per minute and see how we do. It's almost time to start steering us back, so I'm going to get us back onto our heading. Now I'm going to give it a quick second, but when we come out of heading mode, which I should be able to do here soon, if it tries to take it away again, then we're going to just have to fly it manually in. Giving it a second to see if it's just steering us back onto the flight plan, but if it keeps going much further, come on plane, come on plane. Nope, not sure what it's doing, but I don't like it. So we're taking control back. Again, this is just something that you have to deal with. You can get frustrated by it, or you can just adapt. And adapting, if anything, you're just going to get that more of that experience that we're looking for in the sim. You're going to be in control of the aircraft, learning to manipulate the controls to our benefit, doing what we got to do to fly the plane. Increase our vertical descent. Start descending a bit faster. Use some speed brakes to help slow the plane down. Once we turn on to course here, we'll try activating the localizer. We can activate our LS acquisition. So ILS frequency has been acquired. But we haven't picked up a glide slope yet. Alright, and now start bringing that descent rate up. Start changing our heading to the final heading. Speed brakes in. Get us onto our final heading here. I'm gonna try, let's see here, how far are we out? About 18 miles. Alright, localizer's been acquired, so that's good. Alright, looks like we're back on track. Put us into approach mode. Now, I'm still not giving up anything yet. I'm still staying right with it. Because it says our heading is locked. Put our speed back into manage mode for the approach. Not sure why it sped up. Right now we're just going to let her sit for a minute. That should be 1/8 left or right there. Okay, she is steering right onto the approach, so we're good. We're lining up. We're right what I'm expecting us to be at. Don't worry when we have problems, guys. Just find ways to fix them. Take control of your plane and do what needs to be done. Alright, so we're in approach mode. Now what we're expecting to happen here is that when this diamond falls into our altitude line, the glide slope should turn green, the aircraft should start descending down the glide slope. Now I'm also going to go flaps 1. And the glide slope is locked, so we're on point. It's descending rapidly to reacquire. 8 miles out. Let's go flaps 2. Let's go gear down. Taxi lights on. We're going to set speed brakes or auto brakes to low. Quite a bit of runway here. Just going to keep walking her in for a minute. 5 miles. Go ahead and go flaps 3. Alright, and let's arm the spoilers. Chime the cabin crew. And full flaps. Alright, we're continuing. About 200 feet or so, we will disengage the autopilot and take control. Alright, we're in land mode, disengaging the autopilot. I got a little high there. Come on.
10. 10.
Gosh, she doesn't want to fall out of the sky.
10.
Get down.
5.
Ugh. Reversers out. She just did not want to come out of the sky. Alright, reversers in. Applying brakes. And we'll go ahead and exit the runway. Cleaning up the aircraft. Flaps up. Auto brakes disarmed. Strobe light off. Landing lights off. We'll just hold here for a minute. Alright, and we will taxi over to parking. Should be out over here. Turn the LS system off. Approach mode off. Flight director's off. Constraints can come off. Sort of past our taxi point there for a second. It does get kind of hard to manage when you're trying to do it quickly. That's the hold pad. Give me a second. I'm trying to find cargo. Yep, okay, so we need to turn right here. Come on, baby, turn. I got going too fast. Easy to let her get away from you. She accelerates so quick. Okay, now we'll cross 36 left. Taxed it all the way to taxiway Alpha. We probably could have taken Bravo. Would have cut a little bit of time off, but that's alright. Alright, now next taxiway should be Charlie. Oh, am I going to do it again? Oh, here we go. Okay. So come down Charlie. This should take us over to the cargo area. Alright, this is cargo over here. Whoa, interesting. My view hat won't work. So I guess we're just going to try to wing it and hope. Oh, here we go. Hope I get to where I belong. A380. That's gorgeous. Alright, we're going to stop her right here. Cycle that parking brake. Verify all controls are disarmed. Oh, that parking brake didn't lock. Now it did. Alright, make sure our throttles are at idle. Throttles are at idle. We want to spin up the APU. And actually, we can just switch to external ground power, truth be told. So we can turn the APU off. We actually don't need the APU. Taxi light off. Landing lights are already off. Strobe lights off. And let's terminate engines 1 and 2. Engines 1 and 2 coming down. Beacon light comes off. So much for you switching to external power. Thanks. That was weird. Anyway. Alright, and we need predictive wind shear off. That actually should have been off already. TCAS should have been off already. So those two should have been turned off. Well, actually I guess not. Should have been turned off before we got to the gate, but... Alright, transponders turned off. Checking everything else. Going up top. Engines are off, APU's off, so fuel pumps can turn off. We can turn our dome light on. Turn floodlights on, so we can see something here. There we go. And we should be good to go now. Let's see here. Yep, everything else is all set. The aircraft is ready for turnaround, ready for our next flight. I hope you guys enjoyed this as always. This was definitely an interesting flight. Again, don't get frustrated when you have weird bugs or behaviors or things you can't understand. Just take control of the aircraft and do what you need to do. That's how you learn. That's where you're going to get the most experience. And it's actually a lot of fun when things work out and you still get the aircraft where it needs to be without doing anything crazy. We didn't have to turn around. We didn't have to, do any kind of loops or anything like that. The aircraft took control pretty rapidly once I came back. I'm not sure what happened. Like I said, I paused the sim, walked away, came back, unpaused it, and the autopilot went nuts. So that could be a bug with pausing the sim. I'm not sure. But again, you do what you got to do and get the aircraft back on track. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this again, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Take care, folks.